Hey guys, it's Paul Wilson here, starting another e-learning live stream. It's 4 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time on Monday, and we'll get started in just a moment. As per usual, I'll be doing a little bit of housekeeping work up front, and from there we'll get into talking about Adobe Captivate and e-learning and all that good stuff. So let me share my desktop with you guys. Bring it up here. So first of all, there's my oh, it's time to do a live stream according to this pop-up right here. Let's close that. So what we have here is my YouTube channel. For those that don't know, and I'd be very surprised if you didn't know, because of course you are watching this on YouTube right now. YouTube channel is youtube.com/Paul Wilson Learning. That'll give you the page that you're seeing here. If you haven't subscribed before, you can click this subscribe button here. I recommend that you subscribe to my channel. That way you'll get notified, of course, of any new videos that come out or any new activity that's happening on my channel. I also recommend that you click on this little notification bell right here, and that's going to make sure that you receive notifications every time there's something new from the channel there. So hit save on that, and that way you'll know every single thing that comes out. So you can see here, of course, we have our live stream. It should be up and running right now, literally as we speak. So let's just refresh this page here. Yep, there we are. I'm live right there on the page. But of course, there's a whole assortment of videos to choose from here. So I've got about 250 different Adobe Captivate tutorials that you can choose from. I've got them kind of organized. Obviously, when I started recording these tutorials 2.5 years ago, I didn't really know what was going to become of this channel. It was just sort of me getting some of my creative flow out there. But I've tried to organize them into playlists. So I encourage you to check out playlists. If you're just getting started with Captivate, there is a Getting Started playlist right here. If you're looking for stuff about drag and drop, I've got an entire playlist that includes about 17 videos. If you are focusing on perhaps an earlier version of Captivate, there will be playlists for Captivate 8 and for Captivate 9, because of course I've been recording videos since Captivate 8 was out. So that's pretty much it for the YouTube channel. That's where you can find me most of the time. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put them right in the comments of whatever video that you might be watching at that time. Or you can just put channel comments in. That's fine as well. And, I do pretty much guarantee that I'll get back to you. I may not have all the answers, but I certainly will do my best to try and find those answers for you. My current commitment to the YouTube channel is that there's a live stream 8 p.m. UTC time every Monday. That's right now. UTC time is Universal Coordinated Time, essentially London time, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But for those in Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time like I am, it's 4 p.m. So also, there's a new Adobe Captivate tutorial every Wednesday. Usually comes out around 11 a.m., so you can check out that as well. So tune back into my channel at those two times. That's probably the best time if you're looking to get new content here. Just want to remind everyone, if you haven't seen this already, I'll be going to DevLearn this year, specifically Adobe Learning Summit. That's going to be on October 24th. I'll be speaking at that event. I'll be talking about designing your first responsive design course in Adobe Captivate using fluid boxes. So you can, if you're going to be at DevLearn anyway, it's not too expensive to add the Adobe Learning Summit to that. I think if you subscribe before, I think it's even this Friday. Let's take a look here. Yeah, Friday, September 8th. If you register before Friday or by Friday, September 8th, you'll get $50 off the early registration discount price. So, or $50 off with the early registration discount, and that's an additional $50 over and above the normal discount you receive if you're also registered for DevLearn. So you can save $100 if you get on board before Friday. So I really encourage you guys to do that. There's a neat little video here you can watch, and there's some information about each of the speakers that's going to be at the event. So I'm hoping, of course, that you'll come to my session, but there's a lot of great speakers and a lot of great experience, hundreds of years of experience right here, if you add all of our ages up. So quite a bit, I'm sure. The other thing I want to bring everyone's attention to, and I wanted to thank you as well, is that my Adobe Captivate 2017 Responsive Custom Quiz Questions course, that's a lot of Q's, Responsive Custom Quiz Question course, or C's and Q's, has been listed as a bestseller over on Udemy. So that's really exciting news. I'm really pleased about that. And I want to thank everyone who's already gone over and either purchased that or subscribed to one of the other options where you can get this as sort of a value add from me. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment or two. But I want to emphasize that while it's talking about custom quiz questions, this course includes knowledge that you'll take away and you can apply to so many other things. So you'll understand, by the end of that course, you'll understand how to create a responsive design interface using the new fluid boxes in Adobe Captivate 2017. I go over that in quite a bit of detail. In fact, the first portion of the course is just about that. I'm going to talk about setting up variables for your course. I'll also talk about advanced actions, which also includes conditional actions. Basically, everything that you're going to need to build just about any e-learning course using Adobe Captivate. So while this particular topic deals with custom quiz questions, the reality is that you're going to learn a chunk of knowledge that you can apply to so many different things. Multi-state objects, advanced actions, fluid box, responsive design. I almost wish I didn't call it custom quiz questions because there's really so much more to it. But that's currently, it's $50 US. Of course, being Canadian, it shows up as 55 Canadian. Our dollar isn't quite as strong. But if you go to the udemy.com website, search for Adobe Captivate 2017, you'll find my course, and you'll see, of course, the currency that's appropriate for wherever it is that you are in the world. Let's talk a little bit about my website, paulwilsonlearning.com. From there, you can go to the purchase site. I have a whole bunch of different digital downloads available. And, here is where you can download some, many of the sample files that I reference in my YouTube videos. So, for example, if I wanted to, or if you wanted to learn about that 12 days of Christmas, we're coming up on the fall now, so we'll soon be talking about Christmas. And here we have one of my Adobe Captivate tutorials. This one was done with Captivate 9. If you click on the individual digital downloads, it'll bring you to a page where you can purchase this item. You can add it to your cart, but you can also watch the video that's associated with it. Originally, I just had the videos, and it was actually one of my viewers who suggested that I make these courses, or rather tutorials, make the project files available for these tutorials on my website. And just to sort of cover some of my costs of running a website, I've just put most of them are like $5. Very affordable, of course. And you can watch the video. You can learn everything you need to know to recreate this this project file. But if you just, for whatever reason, you just want to download the sample file and use it for whatever you wish, you're certainly welcome to do that. And in addition, of course, if you're, you can certainly ask any question you want of me. What I recommend is that, if you have a very simple, basic question that maybe I can answer in a couple of sentences, the best place is, of course, my website. And I want to encourage everyone, the YouTube site. I want to encourage everyone to use the YouTube site. Alternatively, if you have a project that's maybe a little bit larger and maybe you're looking for me to consult on that project, there is a section on my website underneath the Hire Me tab where you can fill out this form, and I'll get an email on the other side of it informing me of what your request is. And then we can set up a time where we can discuss your needs in greater detail, and I can talk to you about what I can do for you. Of course, my goal when I develop e-learning is to always focus on business goals. So hopefully you and I are on the same page when it comes to that sort of thing. But that's available as well. Now, I've mentioned a lot of stuff that you can purchase. One of the ways that you can sort of get this stuff all for, a really low price, really, is to sign up for my Patreon account. If you go to patreon.com/PaulWilsonLearning, you can sign up right there, and you can, if you subscribe to the $10 level or more per month, you'll actually get early access to all of my tutorials. You will get, of course, the Udemy course, which, as I mentioned before, is a $50 value. And at that $10 level, you'll also get all of my digital downloads as well at no additional cost. So just thought I'd give you that option as well. So that's actually in excess of, I think, about $150 value right there. So that's it for the housekeeping. We'll get back into e-learning here and talking about a few things with Adobe Captivate. Now, I didn't really have a very specific topic this week. I just set this up as just a regular e-learning live stream. So I'm really hoping that those that are on the live stream have some questions. Of course, the live chat, I put it up on the video. But, if you happen to be viewing this live, of course, you'll be able to just get the live stream, which is, am I pointing at the right side here? I think it's over here. The live chat will be right over here. And there you can, of course, ask your question live. So it looks like Jane Herdman was informing me that it was 8 a.m. Tuesday in New Zealand. That's pretty cool. I'd like to go to New Zealand someday. Beautiful, beautiful scenery, of course. I only know it from Lord of the Rings, of course, but still amazing, amazing stuff. Yeah, and that's always the challenge, of course, with these live streams is that, I'm doing them from basically Toronto, Ontario. I'm about a half hour north of Toronto. So for me, I'm in a completely different part of the world as Jane is, or than Jane is. So, and of course I have viewers from India. I've got viewers from New Zealand. I've got viewers from all over the United States, South America. So it's been a really fun time for me, sharing my knowledge with all of you. So, actually, one of the things I wanted to share with you guys was, let me bring my desktop back up. So you can see here I've got Adobe Captivate. And for those that are watching the recorded session, you'll see the live chat over here. And I'll put that down in the description as well after we finish this live chat, or this, what do you call this thing? Oh, yeah, live stream. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of people asking about this. So when you start off with a responsive design course in Adobe Captivate, you're kind of limited with this 1024 by 627 pixels. And so I had one client come to me this week and he said, this is something I'd like to break that barrier. How do you do it? How is it done? And everyone's trying to type stuff in manually over here. They'll type in 1280, hit enter or tab and try to change that number. And of course, they really can't. You always end up back here. And this is almost too intuitive. It's one of those strange things about Adobe that if you're dealing with this, you just expect to be able to drag this and preview it over. But the fact is that the default size for this project is 1024 by 627, and it will scale down, but it won't scale up. You can fix that. Actually, you can go into the modify drop down menu. I'm not sure what the Mac equivalent is. I'm assuming modify works there as well. And then you select rescale project. And this is kind of an old school technique. Like back in the early days of Adobe Captivate, you would have, of course, these non-responsive projects, which we called blank projects, or we do today anyway. And you can actually do a lot of things here. You can select, well, you can't, well, actually, no, you can't say you do a lot of things. You can select your own width and height. So if, let's say, for example, I'm using a very large monitor, everyone in my organization is using a very large monitor. So I can just type in 1920 by, let's say, 980, something like that. I'm not sure what the actual, actually, hang on. Let's do this right. I'm going to hit cancel. Let's do this. I'm going to open up a new browser window. And I'm going to bring that over here. And let's assume Chrome is your browser of choice. And I'm going to go to, well, first of all, I want to make sure I'm at 100% zoom. And I'm going to go to how big is my browser.com. And what that does is it gives you this viewport display telling you, of course, all the yellow space is the actual viewport window of your browser. You can say, well, my monitor is 1920 by 1080. How come I'm not getting 1080 over here? Well, some of that is being used up by the browser itself. So I've got the tabs across the top. I've got the URL bar here. And in this case here, I have a bookmark bar as well. You could turn that off and get maybe a slightly different number. But if this was my target, if I knew that every user within my organization had this resolution and we want the e-learning to maximize on their screen, 969 is what we're going to need to remember here. So let's go rescale project 969 by 1920. And we'll just hit finish, and it's going to give me this little warning letting me know that this operation cannot be undone. Are you sure you want to continue? We'll say okay in this case. It's not anything super important. And of course, it right away changes the height, as you can see here. Let me shrink this down a little bit. But the good news is that now I can stretch this out to the full 1920. Of course, with this particular theme, the background image wasn't really designed for this particular aspect ratio and resolution. Kind of looks like we're seeing someone's butt crack in a way, but I'm sure that's not the intention. So there's the solution to one of the problems that people have been facing. How do I get responsive design that's larger than the 1024 by 627? Here's your solution. Now, this will still be a custom size, but that's okay. If I go to desktop, it'll return back to 1024 by 627. And of course, there are of course, the ability to customize your preview. So if you did maximize that out, let's go the full width there, and we'll just change this back to, what was it again? 969, I think it was. So I could click the plus icon on my toolbar here and call this really large display. And click OK. And now I've got that as one of my previews that I can customize to there. Looks like John's got a couple of questions there. Hi, Paul. Are there any design factors that affect the smoothness of animations in Captivate 2017? Sometimes they seem to stutter a little on preview or in the browser when published. Are certain browsers better than others for showing animations properly? I haven't really experienced that. I know on some of my projects, I've had some situations where, if I've got like a motion path with a lot of points on it, it sometimes can seem a little jittery. I don't know if that's to do with the style of effect or animation. Unless you're referring to animations like Adobe Animate type animations, that's a different thing altogether. So I'm not really sure how to answer that. I do want to say this about, the second half of your question there, John. There are certain browsers that are better than others for HTML5 in general, which animations are certainly a part of. In fact, I think there's a particular website that you can go to. Let's see if I can find it here. Because it gives you, it's part of like the W3 consortium that actually rates browsers. HTML5 browser scores. And there's a few sites for this, but I wanted to say it was the W3 consortium, but it could be this too. I've seen this site before, HTML5 test. And so it's saying that my particular copy of Chrome is getting a score of 518 out of 555 possible points. And you can test this with other browsers. So for example, I still have Internet Explorer version 11, I think was the last version of. So if I bring up that and go to that site, remember I had 518. Internet Explorer 11 only gets a score of 312. Now the actual results are based on you'd have to do a side-by-side comparison to see which one's doing better at different things. Obviously, part of that is video, audio, things like that, streaming content, 2D graphics, web components, 3D and VR, animation. So again, in Internet Explorer 11, doesn't look like animation's going to work all that well. See what Chrome shows up for that particular setting there. So yeah, it gets 8 points for that, whereas Internet Explorer was only getting 5 out of 8 points. So there's a lot of things. I mean, certainly you could take a look at, which the other browsers sort of comes out on top. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is Internet Explorer 11. So Chrome is probably still the best. But again, it changes all the time. Oh, actually, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's sort of a tie between Opera and Chrome, it looks like, with a score of 518. Again, remember that's out of 555. Firefox is up there. Edge, surprisingly, is high. That's, of course, what basically supplants Internet Explorer. And Safari's not too bad. It's still low compared with Chrome and Opera. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of look and compare and see which comes out on top. And generally, I would encourage your IT department. I had a question this week on the forums where someone was asking about, some problems with Captivate not working well with Internet Explorer 11. And that got me to thinking about how old Internet Explorer 11 is. And I did a little research, and turns out that the last version of Internet Explorer 11 came out in 2013. Not as old as I thought it was, but still, that's still 4 years ago now. And, if they haven't done any updating other than patches to make sure it doesn't cause malware or anything like that to get through to your system, obviously Internet Explorer is probably the last browser you should be using. If they're not going to develop it anymore, definitely you want to stay away from that. especially with patches and things like that. So just trying to think of some other things that I've seen recently. Again, I really had no specific goals for today's live stream. I apologize for that. Just sort of run out of ideas at certain points. You know, you try to do your best with coming up with fresh ideas. I should let you know that, again, every Wednesday I'm committing to um, new new tutorials coming out, and I've actually got one slated for this Wednesday to come out, and I'll have to double check which one it is. But again, you'll be seeing a new tutorial from me Wednesday morning at about 11 a.m. It should come out. Now, interestingly enough, if you decided to join my Patreon channel, you know, you would of course have access to that right now, because I do give my patrons a 3-day head start on all my tutorials, just as a nice little bonus for supporting me. Looks like we have another question here from Fontaine. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Fontaine, is that right? As with John's question, do you have any recommendations of learning management systems that work better or worse with Captivate? Sure, I can talk a little bit about that. Obviously, Adobe Captivate Prime would be what the Adobe folks would probably answer that question with, seeing as that it is their companion learning management system that goes with Captivate. There's a few things that I'm still not entirely happy with in Captivate Prime, but for the most part, it's actually a really good LMS. I think it's still probably one of the best values, because while you can get something like Moodle, which is a very good learning management system and sort of almost the industry standard, really, other than maybe Storm Cloud. But Moodle is of course literally free. However, most people purchase it as part of a service agreement, so you would deal with some kind of service partner. I haven't heard upon LearnUpon. I haven't heard about LearnUpon. I'm not familiar with it. I've used SumTotal's LMS, and that's a good design. I find it a little cumbersome with the maintenance of courses and things like that. I do have a greater experience with LearnFlex, which is, I think, the OpenDocs product at this point. Not OpenDocs. What is it? Oh, what is the company name? I can't remember. LearnFlex. It's changed hands so many times. It was LearnFlex. OpenText, yeah. So LearnFlex is their learning management system that they purchased from the LearnFlex Corporation, and I've got a little more experience with that. It's an okay product as well. But what I like about Prime is that you're not buying $1 million learning management system. You know, if you go with SumTotal, between the service, the support, and all that stuff, the installation, by the time you're done, you're, you know, unless you are a big enterprise company, you're going to be bankrupt by that. It's just a ridiculously expensive prospect. Yeah, Moodle is okay, I guess. Again, the problem is, unless you're getting support from someone, you're pretty much on your own. And I think people start to realize very quickly that support is very valuable. You don't want to spend your time managing server software, which is really what a learning management system is. And that's what's good about Captivate Prime, is that you can literally get with a 10 user minimum. That's important to remember. You can get Captivate Prime for $4 per user. I think that's the standard rate. So $40 a month. So it's software as a service. Everything's in the cloud. You don't have to worry about it being installed on your servers. You don't have to worry about updates, because they just sort of happen in the background. And of course, if you have issues or questions, the Adobe eLearning team is more than happy to help you out and support you. You know, and I've been talking about their product for about 2 years now. Yeah, so John's pointing out here the Moodle setup was a nightmare with the hosting company. It took ages. I literally, um, so I had a situation about a year and a half ago where the folks at Adobe invited me to the Washington conference, the eLearning conference that they host. And they wanted me to talk about the effectiveness of eLearning and how to measure how effective eLearning was. And I said, well, that's all well and good. I'm happy to cover that topic, but I don't have my own learning management system. And they were great. They said, no problem. We'll give you like a 90-day license, and you can just set up some courses there and demonstrate that for the audience as well. And that information that I developed from that, I almost want to call it like a project, really, was there's the couple big takeaways about Adobe Captivate Prime for me. Number one is that I was set up and running with a full learning management system, no support from anybody. I didn't ask any questions of them other than them giving me the login and the password using my Adobe ID. I was set up with that learning management system probably in about, I want to say 90 minutes, because that's kind of what they advertise. But the truth of the matter is that it was probably more like 2 or 3 hours. I had a learning management system that I could log on as an author, an administrator, a manager, and a user. And I was able to go in, I was able to upload one of my Captivate courses, assign it to a course, because your content is, you got to think of your content as a module, and the course as the course is this course shell, really, and the module contributes to that course. And there's a couple of things that really come to mind. First of all, it's the first learning management system that I've seen that focuses on effectiveness of e-learning. So it looks at, of course, the level 1 evaluations. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about when I say a level 1 evaluation, I'm referring to Kirkpatrick's levels of evaluation. Level 1 is the smile sheet that you get at the end of a training session. When you go to classroom training, and they hand out the evaluation at the end of the course. What did you think of the training? What did you think of the facilitator? We brought you coffee and donuts at 11 o'clock. Were they nice? Were they, that sort of thing. That's your level 1 evaluation. So how did you feel about the learning? It's important. It's not the most important thing. The next thing, level 2 evaluation, is of course the measurement of your ability to immediately recall the knowledge and the skills that you learned in the training. So usually it's a multiple choice question quiz at the end of a course, and it's very effective to look at it from that perspective. The level 3 evaluation almost never is talked about in e-learning. I just want to see if I can find this particular video, because I did a follow-up video, and maybe what I'll do is I'll share that. And it talks a little bit about Captivate Prime in detail. So e-learning. Oh, let me add Captivate. That should probably show my video. Yeah, so here's the video here. I'm just going to copy the link address here, and I'm going to paste it right into the chat, the live chat. And of course, I'll put this later in the description of the course as well. So if you're interested in watching this, I recommend that you look at it later, not now. But you can click on it, then maybe bookmark it, and then come back to the live stream. I don't want you to get taken away from the live stream, but that's available for you. And you know what? While I'm at it, create a course in Captivate Prime. So let me copy that link address for you, and I will paste that in here as well. Good information to have. Hopefully that'll help you out with Prime. answer any questions about that. Anyway, what I found was that this was the only learning management system that dealt with level 3. And level 3 is how effective is the training, or how effective was the training 3 months later, or 2 months later, or 9 months later, whatever period of time. And that's a bigger contributor, I find, than probably your level 2. Because your ability to write a test at the end of a course and pass it, you're able to go back to the workplace and perform the actual skills and demonstrate the knowledge that you learned in the classroom, or in the e-learning course, as the case might be. So to me, a level 3 is a better measurement, and it's something very easy for you to capture. With Prime, it sends the emails to your manager, or notifications to your manager, and says something as simple as, is Paul capable of using Adobe Captivate 45 days after he took the training? And all the manager has to do is say yes or no. And you start to then look at your results and be able to see very quickly with Captivate Prime exactly how successful your e-learning is. So hopefully that answers your question, John. I probably spoke more than you thought I was going to speak about that. Or sorry, Fontaine. That was the question that you had about learning management systems. And the nice thing about Captivate Prime is that it's from the very same people that have developed Adobe Captivate for you. So you know that the software is going to work. It's not suddenly going to break. We were using, actually, we were using Captivate when we switched from, I think we were using, what were we using? We switched from sort of a virtual classroom tool that I think was made by Centra, which eventually became Saba, and then what we ended up with was Captivate and a different learning management system. And then a year later, we had a shuffle of managers, and of course, they all wanted their own learning management system choices, and we kept having to change them. And literally, we were with an earlier version of SumTotal and trying to run Captivate, and the two didn't play nice together for some reason. Maybe it was our fault, I don't know. But we ended up switching to the Total Toolbook solution, actually. Same company as SumTotal. SumTotal makes Toolbook as well as Total LMS as well. So, any other questions, guys? So I've been playing around a lot with fluid boxes, and I sort of have this recommendation almost. The static option in fluid boxes when required really helps. Do you have any do's and don'ts in relation to choosing the static option? Really, it just comes down to when you might be overlapping. In fact, I've been doing some stuff for a company. These are the previews there. I'm not going to open them right now because it's got their logo, and I'm not sure if I really do have their permission to share it. So I'll just make a new one, a new responsive project here. And I've really been enjoying developing, and this is actually going to probably be a big portion of my talk in Las Vegas. I'll be talking about creating your first responsive project using fluid boxes. So, for me, I think it really comes down to what's important is making sure that you're following a plan. And that's been the thing I've learned the most from in my developing of fluid boxes. If I just start off with a blank slide and say, hey, I'm going to make some e-learning today. The problem with that approach is you're going to end up with something rather random on the page. But if you have a specific plan, and let's say I've got it in my head right now. I know exactly what I want. And so you start off and you start thinking about, okay, what are the elements that I need? Let me see if I can actually kind of borrow from the content in question here. Just bear with me a moment while I bring something up on my other monitor. The idea in this particular instance is that this particular client, and I'm just going to kind of get rid of the logo. This particular client has come to me and said, we need a template for developing our e-learning courses. And, what I'll do is I'll zoom in to a point where you won't be able to necessarily see the logo, but you'll get an idea of, in fact, maybe I can just, so I'll just bring this over here and just kind of show you without revealing all of the screen there. So this is an Illustrator file that I was given, and the idea is that they want to have the navigation controls across the bottom here, right? So you got a back and next, you got a rewind, a fast forward, a play pause, and some background images, and a menu which would activate the table of contents. So I look at this, and this is the exercise I've been going through before just saying, okay, I need a fluid box at the top, a fluid box in the middle, and a fluid box at the bottom, which would be my first instinct when I look at a slide like this. I really start to think about things like, okay, where does the logo line up? Where do these icons line up? How can I build essentially my wireframe in such a way that, I'm making good decisions, that maybe I can not only design a really good fluid box design, but even reuse that slide or that master slide, right? Maybe I'm doing all this on my master slide as opposed to on a regular slide. Let's duplicate my blank slide. Let's give it a new name. And we'll just call this title slide or whatever. Doesn't have to be anything in particular. So the first thing is, okay, I need to add some fluid boxes, but I'm actually going to go at it from a different perspective. Again, the instinct might be to do this, right? And then just give some room for the title in the table of contents, and your navigation goes down there. But actually, I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to say, well, all of my slides have space on either side, right? There's a built-in margin for all of these. Let's start off with 3 fluid boxes from left to right. And before I do anything, I'm going to switch these to squeeze in a row. And that's fine. Everything else is fine. And we want to do the same thing with, in fact, I almost want to recommend that for Adobe Captivate 2018 or maybe 2017 second release or something like that, second edition or fall edition, whatever you want to call it, that the default wrap should be squeeze in a column or squeeze in a row, depending on what you're doing. Just because of the experience that I've had over the last 6 months of using fluid boxes, more often than not, I'm squeezing things in a row. So let's do this here. Let's go back to this sort of idea here. I've seen some talk about using guides to help you with getting the sizes right, but you can kind of go back and forth here with your position panel open. 51, okay, I want to get a little bit closer than that. And of course, those that know me, I like to have my properties panel blown out like this. So I can very quickly go back between position and properties. So that first column, 51, let's zoom in ridiculously close so I can get right in and see that. I need to take it down 1 pixel. There. Oh, this is the tricky part. This is another piece of feedback I have for, there I am, 50. So that's exactly 50. Let's go across here Do the same thing with this one. The idea, again, you've got a perfect, I'm doing this on the master slide, remember. So once I have this, I have my master slide that will never change, and I can create new slides from this master slide that's appropriate in length. 44, I'm too small. I need to go up about 6 pixels here. Oh, not quite. Close. 51. Scale it back just a... There we go. Perfect. Okay, so now I've got my columns there that include essentially a margin is what I've created. Select my middle fluid box and then start building out all the different sections that I might need. It could be as simple as a title, content space, or let's say I'm doing like a quiz question. And that's a real good example of when you might want to have a static choice because you've got your feedback captions, right? So here's your title, your question, the answers, let's say multiple choice type of thing, and your navigation controls. So you've got something like that, and you can just start spacing these out so that you can accommodate all of your design elements. And let's just jump forward. So again, you've got this wireframe essentially that you can start using. Let's just jump forward here. And this is actually a really good example of the type of fluid box design that you might make. Let me dock my properties panel again, and I'll bring this back up a bit so you can see it. So this fluid box here is static. And really what it comes down to is anytime that you're going to want to have items that overlap one another, or don't necessarily or aren't necessarily evenly spaced, like let's say my submit, my skip, my back, my clear, and my review buttons are. But I've got the possibility of any one of these showing up. But if this was not a static fluid box, what would I end up with, right? I'd end up with something that looks ridiculous, even if it's set up to squeeze in a row. And if we select all these items and uncheck maintain aspect ratio, again, all these captions are designed to only fit within their own space when you don't use a static fluid box. So this is definitely an example of when you would want a static fluid box. And this way you can actually, you can unlock these from the fluid box, take them outside, do whatever editing that you need to do, right? So let's say I'm making a custom quiz question slide here for matching, and I've got the 3 different types of captions I'm going to have. Maybe I want different colors, of course, for the text. I could change that to white. And of course, I could make those style, apply those to the existing style so that that changes everywhere else in my course. And let's try this here. Save changes there. And I should have grabbed the review area. I don't use review area that much, so I'll often forget about it. But with this being a static fluid box, and the great thing is there's a nice little cue here that explains it all. Overlapping objects, so no problem. Another thing that's important to note is that multi-state objects are supported in static fluid boxes. And additional state objects. So in other words, if you had, for example, a multi-state object that was going to reside in this static fluid box, you could add an extra object to one of those states. So if you had a caption that said correct, and it was one of multiple states, you could show a person giving a thumbs up as well as part of that multi-state object. And whatever aspect ratio that you use, it will maintain that aspect ratio when it wraps as well. So, but what I've done is in my custom design that I've done for this particular client, I go over to my position panel, and if I want to lock that in, if I want to make it to be, let's say, 75 pixels tall and to continue to be 90% wide, go back to, where's my properties panel there? Let's go back there. Uncheck, unlock from fluid box, pop it back in there. It does resize it a bit for some reason, but I think that's just because of the space. But the good news is that you can adjust the size to a degree. And if I drag any other objects into that, let me unlock fluid boxes first. You'll get the overlap. You don't really need to worry about suddenly resizing other objects in there. So really, the cool thing about this too is that as I change the preview size, you see that the relationship between the two doesn't change. So you can also use this. I think there's one really kind of cool example that's in. Let's do this. Let's close this down here. I'm not going to save that work. And let's see if I've got this course here, this project. If you've got the assets installed for Captivate 2017, is a really good example of how to use a static fluid box with multiple objects that need to be very precisely placed on the screen. And I think this is it here. Yeah, so I've got this map, sort of an employee orientation course. And there's this particular map is sitting on, I think maybe it's not this example. Maybe it's a different example. Okay, I'm thinking of a different example. Obviously, there's a version of this course or a version of another course that I think where there's a map and there's pinpoints on the map. And when you resize the fluid box, because that's, in this case here, this is a good demonstration of optional content. A map is a great thing to have in your e-learning course when you're orienting people. But if I'm looking at this on my smartphone, this becomes optional content very quickly. Not because a map isn't useful, but because at a certain size, it becomes less useful. But let's say, for example, let's do a real... I think I have an example that's better than this. Let me see if I can find it here. I've been moving files around recently, so I've been... not there. Breakpoints. I apologize. I should have this. Maybe demo files. Let's try this one. I'll be better prepared in Las Vegas. I apologize for not having this. Well, I didn't know I was going to talk about static fluid boxes, but thanks, John. Thanks a lot. But the idea is, like, let's say I had an image of a map, and while it's loading, this might not even be the right file, but imagine having that map on screen and having pinpoints demonstrating that, here are the example I'm thinking of is I pinpoint a few areas on a map that are part of the evacuation gathering areas for a building evacuation course. And again, on a smartphone, that becomes an optional content, but it's also static because I want to make sure, yeah, this isn't it, sorry. This isn't even responsive design. But so the idea being that map would contain objects showing you that on this point on the map, on that point on the map, and so on, you know, the idea being that if I resize that, I don't want those pinpoints to suddenly move their position like they would, you know, if they weren't locked together somehow. And that's part of the benefit of using static fluid boxes. Kind of gives you like a fluid box that works more like a blank project does, just in that little fluid box. So the idea being that you know, you have something that is more akin to an old style Captivate course running in just one of the fluid boxes there. So again, you got their map on there, you got a bunch of pinpoints on the map. As you resize your project, the map remains, and the objects in front of the map maintain their aspect ratio and their location on the map. So hopefully that helps you out. Just take some coffee and water. Any other questions, folks? Go ahead. We're a small group today. I was expecting, I'm not surprised because I didn't have a specific topic. You know, because I've been kind of busy doing a whole bunch of projects. Right now is the time of year, it seems. It's very strange being a freelance instructional designer. So when I'd work for different organizations, um, challenge that I'd always face was that you know, the manager of my department always trying to keep me busy, so they would be assigning me projects, and some of them, quite frankly, were make work projects. Like a course might be 3 years old, time to refresh it. You're not busy right now. We don't have a lot of requests. You know, so that stuff would keep me busy, refreshing the old content, you know, getting it up to speed. And in a way, it's actually kind of detrimental. I actually think that it would be better to truly have some downtime where I could spend some time learning the product. I know more about Adobe Captivate in the last 2.5 years because I've been forced to figure stuff out. Because, you know, when you work for a company, it's really easy to say, well, I don't know how to do that. And, you know, your manager really doesn't have much choice. You have to kind of accept that because you're already employed. So it's not like they're going to go and find someone else. Well, they might eventually. Um, but in my case, you know, I worked for the last organization I worked for. I worked there for 5 years and didn't, you know, I didn't really learn anything new. I kept just doing the same old stuff. But you guys have actually kept me very busy because you'd ask a question and I'd go and figure it out and then maybe make a video tutorial about it. And, you know, in the end, you'd end up with a tutorial, but I also end up with more knowledge that I didn't have when I started. So it's been really good for me. I know more stuff about Adobe Captivate today than I did 2.5 years ago. That's for sure. So thank you, John. By the way, one last thing I'll mention about sort of housekeeping, because I know John's looking forward to becoming a patron very soon. I appreciate that, John. Thank you. If I just share my screen again here, just want to point out that for those of you that are on the live stream today, but you know, this is true for future live streams as well, the live chat does afford you and me the opportunity to show your appreciation towards me by using this little super chat here at the bottom. And if you click on that, you have the opportunity to send a super chat. And that's a way of sending me a message that doesn't just contain a message, but contains a monetary thank you as well. Just a way to show your appreciation. So if I've answered your question today, or maybe, you know, I answered a question for you a week or two ago, just in the discussion below one of my videos, or maybe one of my videos helped you solve a problem, you can use the super chat feature just as a great way to say, thanks, Paul. I appreciate what you do. I'm sure it takes a lot of effort, and it does. It's very time consuming. So, you know, anything that you guys do to send my way is always, always appreciated. Another question. Do you happen to know if Adobe incorporated Macromedia Director into Captivate. Director. You'll have to remind me again because the name Macromedia Director. I'm not sure. Let's do a little research together on that because that actually it's an interesting thought. Adobe Director is a multimedia application. So what does Wikipedia say about it? Screenshots usually make it very, very obvious. Could be, it could have been something. Yeah, it was sort of a parallel product for Flash, if I remember correctly. Yeah, no, I'm certainly aware that. So they acquired Macromedia. In fact, it was one of the first billion-dollar acquisitions. I think it was $3 billion they paid for it, or something like that, for Adobe to acquire Macromedia. It was a lot of money back in the day, and they of course were going after Flash because back then, Flash was the up and coming tool. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Could be part of it. Obviously, Adobe Director became a product. What happened to it? Product timeline, Adobe Director. Yeah, I think it just sort of got sucked into other products. They probably, as is the case. I mean, if you were to look at what the Jurassic version of Captivate looked like when I first started using it, by then it was already Adobe. Still had the Macromedia logo when I was using Captivate 2, and it definitely was very limited in its functionality. But prior to me using it, prior to that, it was Robo Demo, and that was a completely different product in most respects. Some of the things that you could do in Robo Demo, you can do in Captivate. But really, its only function was, in the earliest form, was to make screen capture videos. And you could sure do some evaluation with that as well, but nothing like the e-learning stuff that we have today. Yes, exactly. It was the software simulation component. Um, but yeah, maybe it's like, kind of weird cousins. Maybe a little bit of inbreeding going on there. A little bit of this ended up in that. Obviously, Flash is virtually all but gone, replaced by, of course, Animate. And who knows what even the Creative Cloud will look like in 5 years. But I think that's probably more of, it didn't become a single product. In all likelihood, it just sort of got absorbed into other things, which is often the case. I sort of wondered that about, the one that I wonder about sometimes is, Illustrator, Photoshop, and Lightroom. They all do some things very similar to one another, and certainly the kind of person who would use Lightroom would appreciate Photoshop. And maybe it's more of a stretch between Lightroom and Illustrator, but certainly a Photoshop person can appreciate the things that are happening in Illustrator. Is there a point where those software items become one, or three become two, or something like that? It's hard to say. Certainly, Photoshop is nothing like what it was 20 years ago. But very interesting to see how software evolves over time. So Trying to think if I learned any new tips and tricks this week. There were some interesting questions on the forums. Let's take a look there and see what we've got. One of the things that I've noticed a big trend in all of a sudden, and I'm not sure if it's these things seem to come in cycles, but a lot of people asking about importing PowerPoint into Captivate. And, a lot of people who, now, if you're getting started, here's my position on PowerPoint being imported into Captivate. If your boss comes to you on Monday and says, I need you to take this classroom course that we've been running. Here's the PowerPoint for it. Here's the student guide. Here's the leader's guide. And I need you to convert it to e-learning, and you got 2 weeks. Um, so do I have a problem with you importing the PowerPoint into Captivate and maybe adding some quiz questions just to get the job done? Obviously, in the future, there would be more time spent to develop it out and make a proper e-learning course, for sure. Not a problem. But I think a lot of people are buying Captivate or suggesting to their management team that they purchase Captivate for them with the intention that they're going to continue to design all their e-learning in PowerPoint. And I think it's a stopgap measure. I think it's not something that you should rely on. PowerPoint isn't even a very good piece of software for creating presentations that you would use at the front of a classroom. It's not an e-learning tool for sure. So I would encourage people to start to learn the functionality of Adobe Captivate from a perspective of what the software can actually do without importing content from elsewhere. Certainly, it does a lot. I've been using it now. I've been contemplating this because, of course, one of the things that has come to my attention is that uh, the Captivate community can be the Captivate community is a fickle bunch, to say the least. And some people are critical of who you are, where you come from, how much experience you have. And so I have been thinking about my background because my background has come into question by one or two users. And I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been using Captivate for 10 years. I've been an instructional designer for about 12 or 13 years. So I've had a lot of experience with Captivate. And, I'm thinking about all the things that I've been capable of doing. Had I been stuck in PowerPoint for some reason, I think it would be fairly limited. Fontaine is asking, what is better? What is a better presentation package then? I'm not saying there is a better presentation package. I think PowerPoint, um, I think a lot of it has to do with how it's used and not that the software is lacking in some way, uh, other than the fact that it doesn't help you design good presentations. Um, it assumes a lot. It assumes that every slide needs a title. I don't actually agree with that. I don't think a title is required, but that's typically what's built into the templates that are included. It assumes that you need to put a lot of content on the screen because, of course, a lot of the templates will have the ability to add text and multimedia and all of that stuff combined into one. Saw a really interesting image a few years ago. I don't know if I could find it. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, this is, if it's not this one exactly, it was one very similar to this. So on the left, you have Bill Gates using PowerPoint. On the right, you have Steve Jobs using, obviously, what is it called with the Mac? I can't recall, but their presentation software. Um, I don't want to say Pages, but I know that's their word processor. Um, Presenter, is that anyway? Um, so again, a lot of it has to do with who is giving the presentation and what, and obviously Steve Jobs probably didn't design every slide in his presentation, but he certainly knew what he was looking for and would have very clean presentations that might get, like say a keyword in your head, a keyword in your mind. Bill Gates, I don't know what he's trying to demonstrate here, but the visual certainly doesn't give me any idea of what he's talking about. Obviously, he's talking about cloud computing and how all these different channels within Microsoft are all feeding into the cloud. Steve's sticking to one basic concept. The future is now, breakthrough, whatever he's talking about. But I think part of it is a style as well. And even though I'm not a huge Mac guy, I used Macs for a few years. I'm not a huge Mac guy. I could go back and forth from Mac or PC. Right now, I'm presently a very much PC person. So when I see this, I do realize that while I don't always use his products that he's been associated with for at least up until his passing, I do appreciate that he had a certain aesthetic that was elegant and classy and just looked like there was quality behind it. Whereas Bill Gates, it looked like a PC. It was a mess. It was a hot mess. And that's what a lot of his presentations would look like. So, whereas Steve Jobs was more of the master showman. And I think, unfortunately, because of PowerPoints like the ones you're seeing on the left here, this has affected the way e-learning gets designed because people are applying the same wrong principles to e-learning. In fact, when you design in PowerPoint, it's kind of forcing a certain look and feel. My e-learning courses, I'd like to think that they look very different. I go from more of a web page aesthetic as opposed to a presentation, because to me, e-learning isn't a presentation. E-learning is more akin, I think, to a web page. And so when I think about, some of the courses that I've developed, I'll see if I can bring you a quick example here. If I don't have too many windows open, let's try this. Not that one. This is a course I did for Toronto Pearson, and as you can see, this is not a responsive design course. But you can see here, of course, that I've got, rollover tabs across the top. I've got buttons down the side here. This is more like a website. In fact, if you went to the Toronto Pearson website, you could see that obviously they were my inspiration for this particular course. And, I design yeah, there's certain PowerPoint elements. You'll almost never see a bullet point in one of my e-learning courses, so when you get into stuff like this, I'm using a combination of images. There's a lot of narration happening. You can't hear it right now in this particular broadcast, but I'm giving people keywords and phrases. I'm giving them images that go along with the narration of this course. And again, it's much more like a web page, and it's completely free and open to navigate. If I want to jump to the end of this course, I can go anywhere within this course within 2 clicks. Like here, I'm on page maybe 3 or 4, and I can hit summary and go right down to the summary and start the quiz. If that's what I wanted to do. And I'm always a big believer in treating this. In this case, we're talking about adult learning here. So I'm a big believer in allowing adults to be autonomous, to take the training in the order that they wish to take it, to click on the links that make sense to them. I don't want to hear about the lesson goals. I want to go straight to responsibilities so I can jump to that portion of the e-learning course. Incidentally, if you just type in Pearson Awareness, you can probably quite easily find this course. It's publicly available. So I'm not doing anything I'm not breaking any rules by showing it to you today. But in fact, if you'd like to look at a sample of what I've done, it's not a particularly challenging course. This is more of a high-level awareness training on what they need to know about evacuating a building. It's really very simple. There's some things that, again, one of the challenges with dealing with subject matter experts and stakeholders is that you don't always win those battles. Like there's some things in this course that I'm not proud of, because we decided to include information that may not be relevant to all the learners of this particular course. There's a lot of information about types of alarm systems and things that are happening behind the scenes that the vast majority of airport employees will never need to worry about nor care about. So I would have taken those elements out and made this a much shorter e-learning course that required less seat time. And but sometimes you win those battles, sometimes you lose those battles. The one battle I was always able to win because, of course, the management agreed with me on the elements that these are adults. I don't want to treat them like children and force them to watch things that they already know. If they understand the responsibilities, they can click next at any time. They're not forced to watch anything. So, again, really tried hard to stay away from the PowerPoint template and, modeled my e-learning after their website. And you'll see a very distinct similarity to their website when I did the work for them. This will just take a moment to load up that. But so that's always been my approach to e-learning, is to treat it like GTAA is not responding. That's okay. I was trying to go somewhere else. So again, you can see where that look and feel came from. Even the bottom bar is the same in my e-learning course. But again, like if we trust if we trust our public, our customers, to navigate our website in a particular order, why wouldn't we trust our employees to do the same thing with their learning, right? There should be a motivation to learn about the products and services that your company offers. So, hey, Luke just joined us just in time for us to finish up. Okay, see you guys. Have a nice day. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Luke, how are you? Luke, we kind of got a sort of an open concept here. We've been talking a little bit about a few different things. Do you have any questions today? This is just an open forum. If you have a Captivate question that's been bugging you, I'm trying to address as many of those as I possibly can. But we don't really have a formal topic today. We're just kind of, just talking about e-learning, sharing ideas. Luke's in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. a very active user, although I haven't seen much from you lately, Luke. I've seen not too much conversation on the e-learning community. Lots of people asking questions. In fact, that was one of the things that we were doing before we started talking about my e-learning stuff. We were just taking a peek at e-learning.adobe.com. If you can't find me anywhere else, you certainly could find me there as well. But we were talking about, of course, the Adobe Learning Summit for Las Vegas this fall, October 24th. I will be speaking there. A whole bunch of other people will be speaking there. People like Anita Horsley, Joe Gonchi, eLearning Joe, aka eLearning Joe. Who else will be there? Damien from um, Belgium. Belgium's a great place. And I don't know if you guys saw today on the e-learning community, any Adobe Presenter people out there might be interested in this. Presenter 11.1 is now available. And it now supports PowerPoint 2016. Speaking of PowerPoint, this is a product that actually is more suited for those that are stuck in the PowerPoint world. You know, like if that's just the tool your company uses, then it's a great choice there. So I'm trying to get back into the forum, actually. We're getting Captivate 2017 soon after using 8 for a few years now. Can't wait to show them the new features. That's cool. I actually, you know, one of the things, and I'm showing you the second monitor on my setup here. If I show you my primary monitor, which I'll do right now. So one of the things that I don't know if you guys have noticed this, I got 3 different. I was going to say 4. It's not quite that many. I've got 3 different Captivate icons on my taskbar. So I'm running Captivate 2017, as you can see here, and I've got Captivate 9, and I also still run Captivate 8 because I have several clients that, you know, in my case, a lot of what I do isn't necessarily just working with companies. I'm often helping others develop their e-learning for them. So I need to be running all the versions. So I'm fortunate enough to have some perpetual licenses for Captivate 8 and 9. But of course, my Captivate 2017 is complementary software from Adobe. So, but they're pretty good about helping me out because I think I've helped them out quite a bit, and so they've been good about that. There's Captivate 8 right there. Close that down. We don't need that. But so, you know, one of the things that that's kind of good about Presenter is that if you are in that situation where, you know, maybe you are new to e-learning and you're not quite ready for something, a tool like Captivate, then maybe Presenter is a better way to go. I really like Presenter Video Express. This is what I'm using to do most of my tutorials. Previously, Presenter Video Express was part of Presenter. So I think I was running version 10, I want to say. But now I'm running just the standalone Adobe Presenter Video Express, which for me makes a lot more sense, I think. You know, it's one of those things that I don't necessarily need to have the full-blown Presenter. But before I got into Presenter Video Express, you know, you noticed I had the 3 different Captivate icons. You know, someone's asking here, Captivate 8 is still a modernized authoring tool. Yes, I would say it is. Again, I'm still developing in Captivate 8. There are a handful of features that came out in 9. And there's a handful of features that came out in 2017 that uh, make Captivate 8 maybe a little more cumbersome to use. I had a recent experience with a client who's using 8, and they wanted a custom quiz question, and forgetting, of course, how I used to do that. Because what I would do if I wanted to select multiple items, I'd have to create an advanced action that would show the selected version of a button and hide uh, the regular or the normal version of a button. And if you've got, let's say, 27 different buttons on a page, oh my God, that's like probably 60 different advanced actions and different objects just to get that to work. So I really appreciate Captivate 2017 when I have to go back to Captivate 8 and do some of the advanced action work. It's very cumbersome. So my hat's off to anyone still working in 8. And if you do have an opportunity to encourage your employers to, upgrade, that's strongly encouraged. It's almost at the point now where it should be much like Creative Cloud, where it's the only choice. Why would you buy perpetual software? Why would you buy a $1,200 piece of software that when it becomes replaced, you'd have to buy another 1,200 pieces of software? I don't know what corporate pricing is like because I'm not involved in that at all. But even if you're paying regular consumer pricing, $30 a month, like how can you complain about that? And that guarantees you that if suddenly in the middle of April, let's say, of 2018, they come out with 2018 release of Captivate 2018, you'll get it. It's part of your subscription. You'll just get it. It's like every month you'll get whatever updates come out, but you'll also get major releases as well. So I finally made the jump actually today. I've been using a perpetual copy that I had of Office 2013, simply because I was looking at it thinking, I've got this software. Why do I need 2016? What does it really give me? I know it's not e-learning software, but still a valid example. And the reason is that my subscription to the pro version of Dropbox was going to renew in a few days, and it gave me a terabyte of storage for $130 or something like that. Well, I realized that I can get Office 2016 for like a home family pack. So my wife gets it, I get it. I could give it to my parents as well. As long as you're within the home, I guess that's okay. They don't live here, but maybe they could for the sake of Microsoft. But it also comes with a terabyte of storage. So why would I pay $130 for Dropbox if I can just subscribe to Office and get the full pile of software? And that's for all my devices as well. So I've got my computer that I use here. We've got a computer in the basement that's hooked up to our HD TV, and my wife has her own laptop as well. So we can put Office on all 3 machines and not have to worry about extra cost. It's just, and it was on sale today anyway. So let's see, other questions here. Does 2017 settle the need to have duplicate object ID names when duplicating slides to avoid creating new advanced actions to adjust to the new pointers? I have a workaround for that. So the idea that I've come up with is that what I do is I have, let's see if I can find this. I really got to get better organized with all my stuff. So might be in here. This is a project that's part of my premium course that's available not only on my YouTube channel, but also through udemy.com. For those that have been on the live stream since the beginning, it's the Udemy course that actually you get at no additional cost if you sign up to be a patron on my account. And this particular project here, let me share my screen with you, is here. So I've got a bunch of advanced actions. So here's a multiple choice question. Here's some control buttons along the bottom. This is done with a font, actually. This is called Font Awesome. And if you're not familiar with this, I think I have a video about this, but this is really the coolest thing I've come up with in e-learning in a long time here. So here are my possible answers to this question. Justin Trudeau, Stephen Harper, Thomas Mulcair, Elizabeth May. The question is, which of the following political leaders became prime minister in 2015? For this to work, there's an advanced action behind each one of these, right? So answer 1 underscore question 1 underscore 2. This one. So there's 4 advanced actions there. I'll briefly show you what they look like. It's just changing the state of the buttons and assigning variables certain values, and then changing the state of my feedback caption, which is down here, to be one of 3 or 4 possibilities. Now, also there's an advanced action on the submit button here, right? And this basically just says if answer 1 is equal to 1, right? The variable associated with the correct answer, disable all the buttons, change the feedback message to correct, hide the submit button, hide the reset button, show them the next button, and Bob's your uncle, right? And there's also for the wrong answers and an incomplete message as well. So there's quite a bit of stuff going on here. If I duplicate this, it's going to be pointing to the wrong advanced actions. But here's the cool thing. If I right click this, and this is just, let's say this becomes my template file. If I copy this, okay, and then I go in and I make a new project. Let's be precise and make it a responsive project. And I'm just going to make that blank. So I copied one question slide. Important to note. Watch this. Let's say I need 10 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's say I need 5 because that's enough. So now I have 5 versions of that. The key thing is I didn't duplicate it. I copied it from my template project and pasted it into a new project, or in this case, it could be a project I've been working on for some time now. And the cool thing is, and this is the really important part here, a couple things I want to show you. It's created all unique variables. Yeah, they got funky names like, you know, V underscore answer 4 question 011312, but doesn't matter. It keeps track of all that for you. And if I go into my advanced actions list, you see, holy crap, I got advanced actions for all these questions, the submit, the things. And guess what? If I preview this right now, even though it's the same question 5 times, which, as you know, all you need to do to change that is to change the answers that are on the text that are located on these smart shapes, and maybe rearrange the order of the buttons to make it seem more randomly selected. So here's a preview of that project. I'd get rid of the bar here at the bottom, but I can go through this. It's the same answer a bunch of times, but as you can see, it wouldn't take me very long to make unique questions for all of this. My course covers this, by the way. If you want to learn how to do something very similar, again, if you signed up to be a $10 patron of my account, you'd get this course for free. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you get this course for $10. So you've got a few choices here. But my point is this, is that That's how you would do that. What was on sale today? I'm using a trial copy of Office 365. Um, I don't know what the timeline was on that, but I went to Office. No, where did I see this? Microsoft.com, products, software, Office, and there was something at the top. Where did I see it? Maybe it was for home. Yeah. So now, of course, I'm Canadian. I'm seeing the Canadian Microsoft or Canadian Office site here. So normally, Office 365 Home is $99 a year. Today for Labor Day, it was $79. So I took advantage of that price. Also, the Office Home and Student for PC. I don't know why you'd want that, but maybe there's an added benefit. But if you purchase this right now, at least from Canada, I can't speak of other countries, that's the price for that. So hopefully that answers a bunch of questions for you there. Um, I've run out of time, unfortunately, today. I really, actually, now that I see this, I think I'd love to do an extended video tutorial on the Font Awesome font. But real quick, I'll give you as much as I can in what little time we have left. If you go to fontawesome.io, and I will copy and paste that right down into here. What's cool about Font Awesome is that it is literally a font that contains all of these different iconography that you can use in your e-learning courses. Now, I stayed away from it for responsive design, but it worked totally fine in non-responsive courses because all of your text objects in non-responsive courses were converted to images anyway. So you could use all of the fonts, and if you zoom in real close, you can see what these fonts look like up close, and you can see because they're font based, doesn't matter how large or small they appear on the screen. Fonts are basically vector graphics, right? So you can have exit icons, you can have fast forward, rewind, navigation controls, everything you can imagine, hamburger menus, beer menus, whatever it is that you want, and build that into your e-learning course as I've done. But here's the interesting. So you can see these are just smart shapes with the text that represents these different items. And you can apply different colors to them to give you a rollover effect. So let's say the rollover, I didn't do it in this case here, but let's say the rollover for this arrow, I could make that blue, or I could make that red, or whatever color I wanted to choose. But I always stayed away from this with responsive design because every time I'd publish this to the web, this would get converted to Times New Roman or Arial or something like that. And so now I figured out a way around this. And I don't know why I didn't look more closely. The answer was actually on their website. If you go to their Start tab, so you type in your email address and have them send you the Font Awesome embed code. And, I'll give you an example of that. So I've not done it or let's just use my throwaway email addresses here. Send me my Font Awesome embed code. And what I'll get is I'll get an email with basically a little bit of HTML that I'm going to paste into the standard index.html file of my e-learning course. And you can even go a step further. And let me just go to my new Office 2016. And I should have got that. So here it is here. So all you have to do, copy this little script right here, copy that. And then what I've done, I've taken it even a step further, and I've navigated to my C drive, go to my program files folder, go to Adobe, and go to Captivate 2017. And what I'm looking for, and I've forgotten where I found this item, but let me see if I can search for it here. That's what I'm looking for right there. The index.html file, which is located in the HTML folder, go figure. And you may have to edit this. So I'm going to open this with Notepad. And there it is. And what I've done is I've added that script. Now, this is the proper one that I'm using right now to this file here. So every time I publish a course using using Font Awesome or not using Font Awesome, this one line of code gets published with the rest of the project. So if I happen to be using the Font Awesome icon, as I am in this particular case here, I won't save that, obviously. If I publish this right now and I upload this to an LMS or any kind of web server, I don't need to do anything. This font will render itself whether I'm using an iPad, an Android smartphone, whatever. So that was, of course, the ultimate success for me this year, was figuring out how to do that, because I hate next and back buttons. I love icons. I love check the answer, or go this way or go that way, or reset. I love something that takes language out of it as much as possible. Growing up in Canada, and of certainly designing e-learning in Canada, one of the biggest pains in my backside, and not that I have anything against French or English, or for that matter, bilingualism as a whole, but when you're only monolinguistic, as I am, I only speak English, and if I forget to include the words for my navigation controls, then that's a challenge for me. So I love icons, because icons are universal. They don't lend themselves to one language or another. So hopefully that gives you another little hint or tip today that you can take with you. The Font Awesome thing isn't part of this particular custom quiz question course on Udemy. But I do have some video tutorials about it, and certainly you'll be able to watch this video once I publish it and go live. So hopefully that you guys have got some value today. I've kind of just made it up as I went along today. I apologize that there hasn't been more of a format to today's session, but it's been a lot of fun for me. Anyone else here from Ontario except Paul? I'm assuming that I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this. Equalala. I'm probably bungled that up. I'm assuming that you must also be from Ontario. Yeah, so that's actually an interesting point, that Iqualala. I'm saying that wrong or right? I don't know. 30% more content when translating your content from English to French. So bilingual is fantastic. It's great to be able to be accessible all across, of course, all across the country. Unlike the United States, we do have an official language. We have two of them, English and French. I should do it this way, not this way. But yeah, so if I give you, let's say, 20 characters of text, have you translate it to French, it'll come back 30 characters of text. So one of the challenges in e-learning has always been that you have a text box that's, say, this big on your screen, you're going to need to make it this big and this big for French, because of course, or lower the font size for French. And you have to do it in such a way that's equitable for all. So very challenging, very difficult. That's why I love whenever I get a chance to use an icon instead of a next button or a back button or a submit button. I don't like using those words, and sometimes those words don't translate well. You know, for us, I like the word back for going back, next and back. Back is not when you translate it literally, the French word for back is not, doesn't make sense in e-learning. So they have to use a different word altogether. Previous is a better choice, the French word for previous. Anyway, guys, thank you for participating in today's session. Glad it was, I think it was helpful to some of you. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much with my old, Presidente. Presidente? How do you say that? I don't know. That's the thing, is French is not my strong suit. So thank you guys for participating. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Wilson Learning. My website, paulwilsonlearning.com. If you're looking to hire me, you can do so from my website. We can set up a time and share some of your needs, and we'll find out if I can help you with those needs. Don't forget, you can also follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/PaulWilsonLD or @PaulWilsonLD. You can find me at the Mirage Hotel on October 24th. It's not a lounge act. It's actually going to be a 1-hour talk on building responsive design courses in Adobe Captivate 2017. So for those that are able to come, I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again, guys.